Kakadosh Boker Or Kinyan Mesechta. We're going to start Bet Amu Bet on the bottom. Ve'amar Rabbi Yirmiyah v'itema Rabbi Yehiya bar Abba, says Rabbi Yirmiyah. If you remember, he already spoke about a little bit before, so therefore we're continuing whatever he wants, by whatever he says. And he says Rabbi Yirmiyah, and some people say it's Rabbi Yehiya bar Abba, Mantzepach. Yeah, so everybody likes Mantzepach, right? Mem, Nun, Tzadi, Pe, Chaf. Huh? What? Yeah, Mantzepach. Yeah, Mantzepach. Yeah.
Where are you, Rabbi?
Ve'itema. And some people say, yeah, the Mansepach. Mansepach are the letters that have the Sofiot. So, Mansepach, 2 lines from the bottom. 2 lines from the bottom. Mansepach. Tsofim Amarum. Tsofim are the Nevi'im. Why are they Nevi'im? Because they are Tsofim Beruach HaKodesh. They see things from afar, right, with Ruach HaKodesh. Tsofe Atidot, right? Tsofe, right, that's why it's called Mount Scopus. Har HaTsofim. You're able to see from far. That's called, right, Sofe. So, Tsofim Amrum, the Nevi'ei Adorot, they were the ones that said it. So says the Gemara, V'tiz Bira, right? Is it logical to say such a thing? V'akativ, it's written. Yeah, you're listening. Okay. It's written, Ele HaMitzvot. Right, what does it mean, Ele HaMitzvot? Right? Yeah, Ele HaMitzvot. So he says, yeah, it's not only Tunisians, there are a lot of Moroccans. Do you know that Baba Sali used to do also the wow?
Impossible.
You have a recording?
I want to see a recording.
Okay, fine. Ele HaMitzvot. She'en Navi Rashai Lechadesh Davar Me'ata. That a Navi is not allowed to come and to add anything in the Torah. So if you're going to tell me that the Mansepach was given to us by the Nevi'im, they can't just invent things. You think a Navi could just come and invent things? They can't invent. Chas v'shalom. Eno rashai lechadesh davar me'ata. Ve'od, and furthermore, we've got a question. What's the question? Hamar Rav Chasta, says Rav Chasta, Mem v'samech shebaluchot, right? Banesa yomdim. The Mem and Samech and the Luchot were by a miracle. Now, how do you learn that it's by a miracle? So we already said it from both sides. Now, it has to be a Mem Sofit, and it has to be a Samech Sofit. Why does it have to, not a Samech Sofit, a Samech or a Mem Sofit? Why? Very simple. If I'm going to carve in, right, meaning I'm going straight through, and I come and I make a Mem Sofit, or a Samech, a regular Samech. So what happens? I have to have a rock in the middle, because I'm carving around it, right? The Samech is like this, right? And the Mem is like this. So I have to have the Mem, the rock, right, the zero, whatever you want to call it, in the middle. It has to be, right, holding in a miracle. No, it couldn't. It couldn't. So therefore, that's what it means. Benesa Yom Din. So therefore, if you're going to tell me Benesa Yom Din, obviously it had to be a Mem Sofit, not a regular Mem. Right? 1 minute. So he says, yeah, Benesa Yom Din. So answers the Gemara, you're right. Meaning because of these 2 questions, for sure it's incorrect that we said before. We said before that the Nevi'im were the ones that invented Mansepach. It's incorrect. Mihava havu. We always had Mansepach. But we didn't know which one was in the middle and which was at the end of the word. Meaning, we knew that there was Mansepach, but we didn't know. We call them nowadays Mem Sofit, Nun Sofit, Sadi Sofit. We call it Sofit. But really, Be'emet, we didn't know, right, what it was. So therefore, right, we didn't know which one is in the middle and which one is at the end. So because of that, right, Atut Sofim comes the Sofim, and they were instituted which ones go in the beginning and which ones go at the end. Petuchin ba'emtza teva, ustumim besof teva. So says the Gemara, we still go back to the original question. Sof, ele ha-mitzvot shenavi atid lechadesh davar me'ata. He says, 1 second, at the end of the day, you still have the ele ha-mitzvot, that a Navi cannot come and start doing all these things. He can. What does that mean? They were the ones that instituted. What?
What are we specifically talking about?
The Mansepach. Mem, Nun, Tzadi, Pe, Chaf, Sofit. When do you use those letters? So do we use those letters at the beginning of the word, right, or the end of the word? Well, nowadays we know because we're after the fact. The question is, what happened until then? So here it says that ki'ilu that the tzofim were the ones that instituted that it should be at the end of the word, right? So says the Gemara, sof sof. I already said it. Nevi'ah dorot. I said on the bottom, the Rashi. Nevi'ah dorot. Nevi'im. I said sofim. Yeah. Ele mitzvot.
The half Sophie, they didn't put a half. What do you mean?
Because it's the last letter.
I understood that.
Exactly.
But they used only the first.
Because they're not the last letters.
But from this, we know that they're
fine, but that's a proof. Very good. Ele mitzvot. His question was that when it says mansepach bayas, we're talking about the sofet tevot. But we didn't put in the Gemara all the sofet tevot. We only put down the sofet tevot of the chaf sofit. Why? So I told him because it's the last letter. Meaning all the other ones, when it said mansepach, the mem, nun, tzadi, pe, right? It's all regular letters. But it's at the beginning of the word. It's only the chaf sofit that was at the end of the word. So that's why it was only the chaf sofit that we actually have like that. Right?
I didn't understand.
One more time. Look in the Gemara.
Look, the mem, the nun, the tzadik. 1 second, don't. If you understand, you don't understand. All these, they're not the sofit. They're the, but the half, they put half sofit. So I said,
got you.
They should have put just a half, since it's mansepach.
No.
So he said because it's at the end of it. But I said, but the claim is that they didn't know what was.
But those are the
so
letters.
how do they know mansepach?
They wanted to just prove that.
Yeah,
those are
the shorts. Exactly. Nowadays, that was what we know, so that's why they put it. Yeah. So he comes and he says like this. Yeah. So the Gemara says, sof sof. So he comes and he says like this. He says, the question though is, he says, at the end of the day, they're not allowed to do that. Meaning, they cannot come and tell us and dictate to us what's in the middle of the word and what's at the end of the word. So the Gemara answers, you're right. Ela shachum vechazru biasdum. He says they forgot and they came and they put them back together. What does that mean? They came and they put them back. Right? Fine. Yeah, they basically put it back to what was originally already instituted. They didn't invent anything.
6 months for nothing.
Foundations. Shachru means that they forgot. Chazru v'yizdum, and they went and they instituted it back again.
He was in Spain, Rabbi.
The Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah, again, this is going to be Rabbi Yirmiyah, Ve'i Teima, and some people say, Rabbi Chia bar Abba, Targum shel Torah onkelos ager amaro, mipi Rabbi Eliezer ve'Rabbi Yoshua. So onkelos said it from Rabbi Eliezer and Rabbi Yoshua. Targum shel Nevi'im, Yonatan ben Oziel amaro, mipi Hagai Zechariah, Umalachi. So Yonatan ben Oziel came and he said it from Chagai Zechariah and Malachi. And what happened? Nizda'azea Eretz Yisrael 400 parsa al 400 parsa. So Eretz Yisrael trembled, right? Obviously, when we're talking about trembling, it means that we're talking about, right, that there was an earthquake. So it shook 400 parsaot, right, on 400 parsaot. Yatzta bat kol ve'amra, so came out the bat kol and said, right, mihu ze shegila setarai livnei adam, who is the one that he revealed my secrets to human beings. So Amad Yonatan ben Oziel al laglav, right, there's a famous thing about what does it mean, Amad, he stood up, right, so Amad Yonatan ben Oziel al laglav on his feet, ve'amar, and he said, Ani hu shegiliti setarecha livnei adam, I am that person that I revealed, right, your secrets to the human beings. Galui v'yadua lefanecha, it is revealed in front of you. Shelo lichvodi asiti, that again I did not do it for my honor. Velo lichvod bet abba, and not for the honor of my father. Ela lichvodcha asiti, I only did it for your honor. Shelo yirbu mahloket beYisrael, that there should not be machlokot in Israel, and we're going to see why exactly. Ve'od, and furthermore, right? He says, Bikesh legalot targum shel ketubin. Yeah, I'm recording and we're in the middle of Kinyan Masechta. Remember, questions are afterwards, not during shiur. Yes. Yeah, ve'od, and furthermore, bikesh legalot targum shel ketuvim. No, the point is that if you actually listen, so you actually, I didn't say anything. I said if you actually listen, right, you're going to understand, and everything is usually answered. If it's not going to be the first time, it's going to be the second time, third time, fourth time, fifth time. There's a lot of differences, and we already explained the differences another time. If you want, in a few minutes when I finish the recording, I can explain to you the other differences again. Yeah? זה לא נכון. קודם כל, אני לא כל הזמן מקליט. קודם כל, אני לא... So, says the Gemara, right, that ve'od bikesh legalot targum shel ketubim. Meaning, Oziel, right, you know how it is. A Jew, he's never happy with what he wants. He always wants more, right? You give him one finger, he wants the hand, right? You give him one, he wants much more. Yeah, one question, he wants two. So what happens? So he says he already wanted now the targum of ketubim. What happens? Yatzta bat kol, comes out the bat kol ve'amralo and tells him, dayecha. What is dayecha? Dayenu. Dayenu, sasufi. It's enough. Yeah, that's what it means. Dayecha, it's enough. Right? Why? Why? What's the difference? Why is it that Kilu that he did it Nevi'im and it was okay? And now all of a sudden when he wants to do it Ketubim, oh, now you can't do it. Well, what's the difference? Maitama, Mishum Duit Beketz Mashiach. He says because it has a Ketz Mashiach, which means that in Daniel it has a Ketz Mashiach, and we didn't want that he's going to come and he's going to start revealing when is the Ketz of the Mashiach. So because of that, we don't have it. He didn't bikesh, right? הוא לא ביקש מהשם, הוא רצה להתחיל לכתוב את זה, right? זה לא ביקש שהוא ביקש רשות מהשם, הוא ביקש לעשות את זה, ואז לא נתנו לו. Right? The first ones they did give him, right? Means they didn't say anything until the end. Yeah, they stopped him before before the damage. They already stopped him. Yeah, fine. So says the Gemara, the Targum shel Torah onkelo sager amaro. Ask the Gemara, are you going to tell me that the Targum Torah was written by onkelo sager? Veha, but Amar Ravika bar Avin, says Ravika, the son of Avin, Amar Rav Chananel, in the name of Rav, in the name of Rav. Remember, whenever it says Amar, it means in the name of. He said in the name of this one is in the name of that one, in the name of that. Whenever it says Bar, obviously it means that the son. That's why we always call Bar, right? Bar Shalom. You understand? Bar. Why is it Bar? Right? Yeah. So he says, My dichtiv, what does it mean in the Pasuk? Vayikreu besefer Torat HaElokim mefurash v'shum sechel v'yavinu b'mikra. Nekuda. Meaning, I already know, right, that there's a dot there. Well, what do you mean dot? It's an end quote. We started the pasuk and we finished the pasuk. If you take the bet, you go to the Torah Ora Shalem and you see it there. ויקראו בספר תורת, בתורת האלוקים מפורש ושום שכל, ושום שכל, ויבינו במקרא. Right, there's a pasuk in Nehemiah Het. Yeah? So it's a start quote and an end quote. Now, usually the way that we do pesukim is, right, and this is all throughout Shas, because you've learned enough Daf Yomi to understand this, when we take the pasuk, we dissect the pasuk word by word. So we're going to say, what does this word mean? So we're going to start. So Vayikreu, right? When it says Vayikreu besefer Torat HaElokim, so he comes and he says, this is the first part of the pasuk. Vayikreu, they called out, they read in the Sefer of Torat HaElokim, is a mikra. What is that? Torah. The Sefer Torah, what's Torah Elokim? Sefer Torah Elokim is the, right, not the Varim, it's entire Torah. Yeah, okay, fine. Mikra, Pasukim, fine. Mefurash, right? It says over here Mefurash. What is Mefurash? The Targum. Meaning that they already had Targum way back, right? Because if in Nehemiah they're already talking about the Targum, that means the Targum already existed. It wasn't Onkelos that has to come and start teaching us Targum. It was already there, right? V'som sechel, yeah, v'som sechel elu psukim, meaning they already had. Where are the psukim? Meaning, if you take out Sefer Torah, I don't know where the pasuk is. You know where the pasuk is? Sometimes you can make a mistake. Where's the sof pasuk? Where's not sof? Why? There's nothing there unless it finishes with a parasha or a samech. So there you know that, and even there sometimes it's in the middle of the pasuk, right? It's in the parasha Vayishlach. In the middle of the pasuk, Parashat Pinchas, middle of the pasuk. In Parashat, So that's what it says here. The psukim. This is coming from the Vayavinu b'mikra, That's the last words. Ve'yavinu b'mikra elu piskei te'amim. Ta'amim. Ta'amim were already given. So therefore, if we're talking about these are already given, right? So therefore, that's it. So that means the question is, the rest of it, right, was extra because once I actually said meforash is targum, I have the question right there. Because the question is already from there. But again, we're already explaining a pasuk, so we're going to go. Yeah, obviously. The amrila, and some people say elu masorot. These are the masorot. So therefore, again, the masorot is the masoret of which letters were maleh, which ones are chaser, which ones are big, which ones are small. In this week's parasha, we had a letter which was big. Which one? The nun. Very good. Holecha gachon. Yeah. So you have. So that's called masoret. So yeah. So therefore, you have masoret darosh darash. Right? Darosh darash is there. Is the chatzis on those words. Darosh darash. Right? So he says, what does that mean? So you see, right, that there's a concept of that the masoret, there was a tradition, right? There's a masoret. They had a tradition. What is big, what is small, what is it? I actually just saw yesterday something incredible. We were learning halachot of Sefer Torah. I was learning with my chavruta because of a question that came up, right? And what happened is that when I was learning with him, I went and I told him the question that happened here. He told me something incredible that happened. He told me there was a kohen, right, that went up to the parasha in Tetzaveh, Ve'ata Tetzaveh. Now what happens is, if you actually pay attention, in the beginning of Ve'ata Tetzaveh, you have two pesukim, and they're long pesukim, and then you have a pe'er samech, and then you have another pasuk. So when you actually start the aliyat kohen, the minimum of an aliyah is how much? 3 psukim. So therefore, what happens is that the kohen is going to start, right? Ve'atat pasuk kaf kaf aleph, and then you have a samech. Okay? Kaf aleph, and then a samech. That means, right? A samech means there's a break in the middle of the. Now, a pei means that a parasha ptucha. Parasha ptucha means is that when you finish, you start the next line. That's a pei. A samech means that you have usually 9 letters, and then you're going to start over there, meaning empty space, just like you have here. Did you realize that's called parasha setuma, samech? So therefore, there's a samech over there, right? If you have a pei, it will start the next line. This is also a samech. I don't know if he actually does it here. Okay, I would have to see.
Rabbi,
yes.
Is your favorite Ashkenazi or Sephardi?
Sephardi. Yeah, Sephardi. Rav Yaakov Gabbai from Geneva, right? So what happened is that he told me that he once had a Kohen. He's also a Bal Koreh, right? And he's Sheikh Tzibur. So therefore, he went and told me the Kohen comes up to the Aliyah, and the Kohen wanted to read. So okay, so he gave him. He didn't even know the Kohen. He didn't know who he was, but he said, okay, fine. So bechavod. So he let him read. So he comes and he read. Now, if you realize, look how long the two psukim are, right? Kaf, right, and then you have right Kaf Aleph. So he stopped by the sun.
He cannot.
Right now we know that he can't. He only did two psukim. So what happened is that they called the Levi, right? And now the Levi comes and he starts, and all of a sudden, when he finishes the Levi, right, he realizes, hey, 1 second. It was only 2 psukim. So it's actually a Mishnah Brura. The Mishnah Brura, I think it's Siman Kuf Lamed Zayin or Kuf Lamed Chet on Sif Katan Yud Gimel. He says in such a case, right, what you have to do is you're going to call up 2 Yisraelim. Meaning, you can't go again. Yeah, you're going to have Arba Olim during the week, which is a huge chidush. Now, what? No. Yeah. So what happens is that you're not allowed, right? So basically, the problem is that what are you going to do? If the guy made the bracha charona and you caught it right away, the Kohen, so then you would make him read the 3rd pasuk and then do yes, and then he would have to do bracha charona again. And then the previous bracha charona was bracha levatala. The problem is once they called up the Levi, right, and the Levi now starts. So now what happens? Now you can't. Now, if you're going to tell me that go back, how are you going to go back? It's a problem. Well, what are you going to go back? You can't go back. So therefore, what you would have to do is you have to do 2 Yisraelim to make up 3 Olim during the week, because basically you only had 2 Aliyot. If the Kohen was not counted,
but are we
right?
allowed to cancel the first?
It's not canceling. It never counted. Right? It never counted. It never counted.
What do you count for the 4th? What do you read for the 4th?
No, so you have to split it up, meaning that if you already know what's going on, you try to split it up in order to come and to do, right, the 4th Aliyah. Now, you can't do anything else because I can't call up another Kohen. And I already called up a Levi. So therefore, the only way to do it is to get two Yisraelim. One
He
second.
called the Levi up, but he didn't start the bracha. And you caught it then.
So it's fine. Then you could still do it.
Then you could still bring.
He could still do it.
So basically, what you're trying to say is that you're saying is the Kohen can have either two bracha levatala or just
one bracha levatala.
No, one bracha
You
levatala.
didn't catch
The
it.
last one.
No, if you didn't catch it, there would
Two bracha levatala.
no, because the first bracha is not going to be a bracha levatala, because he did read. The only thing was it wasn't considered an aliyah. So fine, yeah. But the whole question or whatever it was.
שמה שלמדת אותו משהו מזמן ואני מנסה לחבר ביניהם. למה לא שהלוי עולה, הוא חוזר אחורה ועושה 3 פסוקים גם?
מה זה יעזור לי?
במקום לעשות...
מה זה יעזור לי?
כי אתה אומר שצריך להיות 3 עליות כשרות כאילו.
כן. מה זה עוזר לי? זה לא עוזר. Yeah? Fine. So basically what happened was that actually happened to him. Okay? So that was a case that actually happened to him. Yeah. It was a Mishabra and he knew it and he did it. Okay, fine. The next question was, and the reason why I was speaking to him about this is because what happened here. What happened here is that they went and they called up a Kohen. They didn't call up a Kohen. They called up a Yisrael. They called up a Yisrael on the second minyan, and the Shliach Tzibur, he made a mistake. And he said, Vayaki Yitzhak Elav, instead of Elai. V'shamati kechanunani. So since he made a mistake, so technically speaking, right, he should fix the mistake. The problem is, right, there was only Shlosha Psukim. So now the problem, now 1 second. So now the problem is as follows. So now there's going to be a few things. Number one, right, he made a mistake. If he made a mistake and you weren't Yotzei Chovah on that pasuk, so therefore there was only 2 psukim read. If there's only 2 psukim read, so then it's a problem now. So therefore you would have to have another aliyah over there. Now 1 second. So now anyways, there was another problem, right? Should you go back? Should you go back and fix the mistake? So on Shabbat, for sure you go back. During the weekday, right? If it's not a chovat hayom, you don't need to go back. So the what I was able to do is that you don't go back. Why? Pagam of the Kohen. If right now you would go back and read again 3 psukim, what are you going to say? Imagine right now, so the Kohen is not kasher. So the Kohen was pasul, right? So therefore, I can't do it because of the pagam of the Kohen. Mina Shamayim, it wasn't the Kohen. It was a Yisrael. So I could have gone back. Meaning you could have gone back. But if you gone back, you would have had to go back for the 3 psukim, right? From the beginning. Right? And now there's another halacha, right? Which is that whenever you start or finish an aliyah, it's usually always starting or finishing by a pei or a samech. Except for, right? A pei or a samech, or 3 psukim before or 3 psukim after. But never in between. The exception to the rule is when you start. Why when you start? Because when you start a parasha, right? So when you're going to start a parasha, there's no problem. So for example, in this case of Parashat Tetzaveh, I started the parasha, but I've got 2 psukim and then I've got a samech, but it doesn't matter. Or for example, on Rosh Chodesh or things like that, it doesn't matter when you're starting because the Kohen, since he's the first aliyah, you know that nobody started before. Now, what is so important? The reason why is because if you always start with a pei or samech, that's when you do aliyot. You always cut aliyot by pei or samech. Even the Rishon, Sheni, Shlishi, Revi, Chamishi, that's all nonsense, right? It's not, it's not like mamash, pei or samech. The Gaon was always pei or samech, right? He didn't really care about it's written in Revi. No, the pei or samech.
The Chalabim, they have different cuts.
Yeah, different cuts because pei or samech, that's all it was. Now, what happens is that when you're doing it, if I'm going to do 1 pasuk before or after, you've got a gezerah mishum nichnasim, mishum yotzim. And nichnasim, they come inside, right? And you finish 2 psukim, right? You finished 2 psukim before, let's say a pasuk before a pei or samech. So you come inside, you say, the guy before, he only read 2 psukim. Now we know what's the minimum of how many psukim you have to read? 3. So therefore, it's a gezerah mishum nichnasim. Now, what's the yotzim? Right? I have to go to the washroom. All of a sudden, you come and you finish 2 psukim before the pei or samech. And now I'm going to run to the washroom. What am I going to say? The next aliyah is going to read out many psukim? 2 psukim. I can't. So because of the gzera mishum nichnasim v'mishum yotzin, right? Which is because there's a siman Shulchan Aruch, there's a Gemara based upon a Gemara Megillah. We're going to learn all these halachot, by the way. Megillah, and it's a Shulchan Aruch siman kuf lamed chet. So because of gzera mishum nichnasim yotzim, you always finish by a pair of samech, or 3 psukim before, or 3 psukim afterwards, right? You're not going to come, right, and what's it called, and start doing a 2 psukim. So now, yeah. So therefore, I went and I told the Chazan, right, if you're already going back, you have to go back to the beginning, because in Kesef Talveatami is only 3 psukim, so you're not going to go back 1 pasuk. So he said, yeah, Rosh Chodesh. Rosh Chodesh was a whole machlokot, because the Levi has to repeat another pasuk, right? Av Hechal de lo efshar, meaning when you cannot have another choice, you do repeat. So for example, Parei Chag, Shulchan Aruch brings this down. Parei Chag on Sukkot, or even on Chanukah, you repeat. Chanukah, Bayom HaShishi, right? What do you do? The 3 psukim. Then you do 3 psukim. So each one did 3 psukim, but then the Shlishi repeats everything. So you're right. Sometimes we do have to repeat everything, right? But even when we're going to come and we're going to repeat everything, at the end of the day, it's Hechad Elo Efshar. There's no other way of doing it. But if there is a way of doing it, I'm not going to do it for no reason. So therefore, right, but here it was actually even worse, because here, since the first aliyah was not counted at all, they needed to do 1 extra aliyah. They didn't do it. But anyway, right, they didn't do it, but really, they had to do an extra aliyah. You understand? So therefore, they would have had to split up probably the next aliyah into an extra 2, and therefore they would have had an extra. Now, Chol HaMoed is like Monday and Thursday. Monday and Thursday. No, but it's not like Shabbat. So therefore, which one?
But he said they corrected him. So
they corrected him. So he went back. He went back 1 pasuk. Now, technically speaking, that in itself, but again, when he called up the Levi and he read 1 pasuk, that was only just to Ilu make. It was Israel anyway. No, but it was just like Ilu to fix the mistake. But even if you were going to fix a mistake, go back 3 pasukim and fix a mistake. You understand? Not just that pasuk. You understand? Just like fix the 3 psukim. Now, if anyway, but it wasn't an aliyah anyway, because if it was only 2 psukim, so it was not an aliyah. So if it wasn't an aliyah, again, you have a problem. Now, again, the nichasim yotzim is only a din lechatchila, not b'diavad. But here it was worse, because basically, if it wasn't an aliyah, it wasn't an aliyah. So you have a problem. But anyway, but here you have, right, the question. So let's go back to the question, and then we'll just give me 1 second, and then there's the question. So the question is, right, it's also Monday and Thursday, you have a chova lekro. Yeah. No. The Chovat Hayom was to do with the Pesach. In Kesef Talvei was just the extra. Yeah, the main thing was Chag HaMatzot. Was the next the third aliyah, the second and third aliyah. Yeah. So he comes and he says this. He says, so Amar Avika. So he comes and he says, what does it mean? V'sever v'yikru b'sefer Torat Elokim meforash v'somsecha v'yivinu mikra. He comes and he says, this is the Targum. So if it's the Targum, that means we already had Targum. Answers the Gemara, Shachum v'chazru v'yazdum. The same thing that we answered before. Meaning, even though we did have the Targum, they forgot the Targum. So therefore, Onkelos was the one that had to bring back the Targum.